Today we will start with experimental studies. Master Dr. Vivek Vaksore from the Department of Community Medicine. Hope you are all doing fine. So before we start, this is a portrait of an eminent person who has started or who has first time recorded an intervention study. It's not that intervention studies from this person or before that there were no intervention studies. Since antiquity we are performing some types of intervention study, but well noted and systemic manner, uh, historically this person is being credited for intervention studies. Just a hint, it is related to some vitamin deficiency. Can you identify? Hope you all have got correct. It's a James Lind and his experiments regarding scurvy. He had divided 12 sellers in a group of 2 each and given them certain treatments what he felt were the treatment for scurvy, and he found that the group which the or pair of sailors which received orange or lemon dramatically improved. And since then Royal Navy has ensured that their sailors got the supply of limes with them, and that's why they were also called as limeys. So history apart, just a revision of epidemiological study designs. Descriptive observations are divided into descriptive and analytical, and then intervention. How to select? It is divided, decided upon what you want to do. So evidence based on epidemiological design, as we in last time we discussed same thing. Here, randomized control trials are the give strongest evidence, followed by community intervention, quasi experiment, and last is the most weakest evidence of evidence provided during any epidemiological study design is descriptive study design. How researcher decides what study to perform? First basic thing is the researcher has to decide whether he want to assign exposures or whether he want to intervene, give the medicine, or any type of intervention the researchers want to perform. If the researcher only wants to observe, then he has to go for observation studies. If the researcher wants to do actively modify something, then he has to go for experimental studies. Okay. So intervention studies are the studies in which researchers does something, changes something, intervenes or modifies some behavior. Okay, it's not just like drug. It may be a behavioral change. It may be a introduction of something. It may be a vaccine. So anything. These all, so whenever there is some change brought about by researcher, it is known as intervention studies. Depending upon how the participants are divided into groups receiving the intervention and not receiving or receiving the old intervention, it is then it is again divided into randomized control trial or non-randomized studies. Okay, so either you are selecting the two groups by randomly or either non-random fashion. So first of all, this is a most scientific method. Okay, as you are actively involving it, actively changing something, you remove most of the biases. Okay, and if you are doing randomized control trial instead of non-randomized experiments, then you are removing most of the confounding factors, because what will happen, the confounders will be distributed equally among the study group and control group. What are confounders again? Anybody remembers? So these are the factors which are actually present and affect the outcome but are not related to exposure. Okay, so if we are randomly dividing the study subjects, we are equally distributing the confounders. Then if this randomized control trial or experimental designs are used to study effect and outcome, then they can give or ensure the most best example of temporal relationship. Okay, and as these are more robust study design, it builds a faith in. Disadvantage is it's very expensive. Okay, and you can't study risk factors or prognostic factors. Means how can you ask somebody randomly to, suppose you're again going by example of smoking lung cancer, we can't randomly say some people start smoking and some people stop smoking. This is totally unethical. So it is only used for treatment and preventive purposes, not for finding the risk factors or prognostic factors. Okay, then there is a big ethical dilemma, that is if you are giving a new treatment, and then see, suppose there are one drug which is very good, suppose a paracetamol, we know that this drug reduces fever and it has been known for many decades. If you introduce a new drug for fever, first ethical dilemma is that already when you know that this drug is good, then your study group you are exposing to a new drug, and maybe more drugs having more side effect, more harmful drug. And if not, the second dilemma is that if the new drug is very good, it has very less side effects, then you are deploying your control group of the new drugs and giving them the same old drug. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. So in both ways you are doing some ethically wrong. So this is one major disadvantage of this RCT. Now what is RCT? Randomized control trial. This is a very important study design. It is also known as clinical trials. Almost all the drugs which are designated for a particular disease, these have to come on through this randomized control trial. Here simple thing is that what to understand, these are the trials where you don't decide who should be study group, who should be in study group and who should be in control group. Instead we randomly allocate them. So any person who is involved in study can be given study group or a control group. This is the best way to evaluate efficacy and effectiveness of drug. This is a prospective study, remember this. We start the intervention and we continue to follow up. This can be also used for determining cause and effect, but that is a very rare scenario. Here we can actually, in this case, we can say cause as a therapeutic measure and effect as patient getting cure. This is what we mean by cause and effect in terms of interventional studies. Now, the most important steps in the RCT are randomization, controlling, and blinding. So, randomized double blind control trial is considered as a gold standard. Remember this for your MCQs, randomized double blind control trial. Now, the advantages and disadvantages are listed. You can read for yourself. You can pause. Now, ethically, there are very important and major issues in randomized control trial. That is why there is a clinical trial registry for every country, and all the clinical trials have to be registered in clinical trial registry. So that much specific importance is given for ethical consideration under RCTs. Okay, informed consent is very important, and the person should be well aware that he or she can enter and exit the trial anytime they want. They should not be coerced, they should not be given misinformation. So suppose there is a new drug for cancer, and if you start misinforming the patient that okay, this is your last resort, do you want to do or not, then they will surely get involved. But this is not how the result should be given. You have to tell that this is a newer modality, it may be effective, it may not be effective, it may lead to some side effects, it may not lead. So all these things had to be explained to the person. So these are the two considerations, very important. Types of randomized controlled trials are clinical trial, Okay, first is clinical trial. This is a very common. This is many times interchangeably used with randomized control trial. This is used for drugs or any therapeutic treatment or surgery, such modalities. We have to find, if we want to compare the newer treatment with old treatment, we have to undergo clinical trial. Okay, it is very expensive, time consuming, and it has many ethical issues. And many times the drug companies which have invested so much in developing drug, they may they may not perform this trial to the perfection, and that may result in a wrong results. So all these things need to be taken care of. Second is preventive trial. It is a same as therapeutic trial, but for preventive modalities like vaccines or any personal protective measures. So as simple as that, if you want to find out, suppose a new mosquito repellent, whether it is useful to prevent mosquito bite or not. So you can compare with older one. So that is also comes under the preventive trial. Difference between clinical trial and preventive trial is that in clinical trial we are finding patient and treating them. Here we are finding the healthy people and preventing the development of disease in them. Then risk factor trial. What it is done here, same thing is there as preventive trial, but instead of using some therapeutic or preventive modality, here we are changing some habit or intervening some good habits in them, like stopping addictions or hand washing, exercise. So this is the more of a changing the lifestyle. Previously, actually, we were using medical knowledge, applying medical knowledge. Here, uh, we are applying medical knowledge, but instead of preparing a drug or vaccine, we are changing a lifestyle. Okay. Community intervention trial. It is same as field trial, but instead of some groups of people, whole communities are studied or allocated. Health services evaluation trial, as name suggests, we are evaluating new program, whatever health facilities are available, they are functioning or not. That's why health services evaluation trial. And cessation experiment. In this, instead of doing something, the researchers ask people to stop doing something. Means what? Instead of actively trying to do vaccine, drug, or anything, just say stop drinking, stop going outside, like what we have done for the lockdown. So similar these things, suggestion expertise. Now we'll study clinical trial in a bit detail. It has three phases, actually four phases are there. First phase is that, actually even before that, there is a preclinical phase. Preclinical phase means in this drug is developed, it is tested on animals, its biochemistry is tested. Then there are computer modelings which will help in finding out whether the drug is useful in humans or not, whether it is harmful or not. Then first phase is performed. First phase is mainly for side effect with and finding out dosage. In this very good, healthy, robust small population is taken, say about 50, and then we apply the drugs to them and study whether they develop side effects or not. Okay. Then comes the second phase. Here, this phase is for actually finding whether the drug is effective or not. This is done in bit larger group, say about 500 people. Yeah, in this also we study whether there are any side effects or not. Okay, and also try to compare with some placebo. Third phase is the main clinical trial. This is the group here is from 100 to 1000. Two treatment modalities are generally used. One is old treatment or continuation of the old treatment, and the other is a newer drug found. Okay. Then after this phase, it is licensed, it is given out in public, and fourth phase is that continuous monitoring and evaluation. That is, even though if the drug is sold, if there is complications are found, those are immediately noted to the manufacturer. This is fourth phase is continuous phase; it never stops. Now again, these are the steps in randomized control trial. The basic important thing is that whenever participants are finalized, means first they are invited, first the potential participants are found, then they are invited. Out of those who are recruiting, their examined whether they are fit to be included in the study or not, or whether they fit the criteria of the researcher or not. And after that, they are randomly divided into treatment and control group. These are the steps in conduction of RCT. First step is protocol. What is protocol? Protocol is a structure which you have to decide beforehand how to conduct study. So it has n number of things, including what your objectives are there for the research. Secondly, selecting and finalizing the definitions of various things, including the patient, drugs, dose, even what are the complications. Everything has to be in written, and everything has to be predefined. Okay, then ethical consideration has to be done, included consent and other things, documentation and procedure, all these things come on. Whenever selecting a population, we first start with the target or reference population. Means what? Suppose you are studying efficacy of new hypertension drug, then all the hypertensives are your reference population. Okay, then out of that reference population, you have some criteria. Okay, so for continuing with the example, if the criteria is that we don't want young hypertensives, then we will exclude them. That is exclusion criteria and inclusion criteria are there. Out of that, then we invite the people to be included in our study. So we are inviting thousands of people. It may come to fact that out of those, very few will come. So when the actual participant comes, these are known as study population or experimental population. Okay, they must be giving informed consent either by themselves, and if they are underage, then their guardians have to do. Then most important step is randomization. So whatever study participants are there, we are randomly dividing them into those who are getting the intervention and those who are getting the control groups. Okay, then intervention is actually given and we measure the outcome. So independent variable is a intervention and dependent variable is outcome. Then these people are followed for specific given period of time, and during this period we study their deaths, their migration, their loss to follow up. All these things are there. So subjects are lost, so we have to see this, how many people we are losing, and adjust our research accordingly. Some research, very good research has started but fell off due to loss of the participants. So assessment is done. Again, we make various efforts to avoid biases, and many of the biases can be avoided. So we will just study what are the biases during RCT. So every phase, these are different. Planning phase, again it is given, you can read it. Now how to avoid biases? Then first is use of control groups. Actually before that also, randomization is most important. Okay, then use of control group. Control group may we can give placebo, we can give a normal currently approved treatment, accepted treatment, and you care. Okay, then blinding. What is blinding? We will see forward. Allocation concealment. This is very important. A person should not know whether he or she is in the study group or whether she or he is in the control group. Okay. Now what is blinding? Blinding is single blinding means that the study population or study people does not know in which group they are, whether they are in the control group or intervention group. This is single blinding. Double blinding means the doctors, treating doctors also don't know. They are just given packets A, drug A and drug B. Drug B might be some placebo or something else. So they also don't know, because what will happen if they know that group A is something intervention group or new treatment group, they may give biased results. They may have psychological biased results. So that is why the doctor also does not know in the double blind. In the triple blind, the people who are analyzing, that is statistician, they also don't know which group is what. Okay, so these are all things done to avoid bias. The types of randomized control. There are many types. Some common types are parallel and crossovers. What happens in crossover?
The people receiving treatment A and people receiving treatment B are there. In crossover, what happens? Those who are receiving A now get B, and those who are receiving B now get A. So these things happen. So there is a crossover trial.
So what is the benefits of each? It is given, just read it. Now ethical issues, these are very very important. This can come as a 2-mark question also. First thing is that unless and until patients are benefited directly or indirectly with huge amount, then only such RCTs to be taken into consideration or started to be worked on. Right, and a person should be able to join or get out of the research anytime possible. And justice, ऐसे नहीं कि rich people should get the chance to have a newer drug and poor people should get old drug. No, they are randomly allotted despite of their tests. Now how ethical issues can be done? For randomization, correctly performing the study and avoiding bias. This is how the ethical issues can. Next part is non-randomized intervention studies or quasi-experimental study design.
Simple difference is that here we are not deciding the person should be a study or intervention group and control group by random method. Here we are deciding this due to certain purpose, due to certain restrictions. That is why these are randomized. And as we are not randomizing the division, it is known as quasi-experimental. That is not fully experimental basically. Why? What is rationale? Why we, if RCT is so great, why are we conducting even or thinking to conduct these studies? It is because that always conducting RCT is not possible. Actually, RCT is possible in very few scenarios due to administrative efforts, that is manpower, money, material availability, and mostly due to ethical reasons. Then sometimes whole community intervention has to be done. That time we can't randomly allocate and can't compare this. And then RCTs are very very expensive. So due to this, due to feasibility, practicality and ethical issues, sometimes quasi-experimental studies are performed. Type 1 is non-randomized or concurrent trial. Here the two groups are not randomly allocated, but due to certain purpose or due to some certain criteria, if people fulfill certain criteria, then they are given in the intervention group. If they are not fulfilling those criteria, they are given in the control group. So that depends. So example is very good example, you can read through it. So in such cases, it is impossible to randomly allocate. Here, hence non-randomized or concurrent. Then there is a before and after. This is very 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 common. Even this trials are used for some study lessons or for workshops, where what they will do, they will ask you to fill up the form, check your knowledge, and they will give you the lectures, the workshop will be conducted, and after that again the same questionnaire has to be filled, and they compare whether your knowledge has increased or not. So similarly, before and after trials are there. So these can be before and after trial with comparison, and or control, and before and after comparison without control. Okay, so you can read through the examples. Uncontrolled trial. Sometimes the benefit is so great and so obvious, it is totally unnecessary to provide any control for the trial. That means what? A PAP test introduced in 1920, it was found in so beneficial. So without comparing also, people understood that the incidence has reduced. So these are used in many cases. Natural experiments. A natural artificial phenomena occurs. Now currently we had in 2020 the same phenomena, that COVID pandemic.
Such a huge pandemic was there. So there is no need to compare have a control. Just we can see that those people affected due to that phenomena, what behavior changes are happened or what other changes they are facing. So this type of research can be done natural.
Now, what are the disadvantages? There can be many biases which are difficult to eliminate when the groups are not randomly allocated. Okay, and many times confounders are present, that cannot be found out and that cannot be controlled here also. So like before and after trial, there are many other effects also. So by that the patient may get better. So or the changes may see because of some external forces acting. So these confounders cannot be eliminated. Hope that I have been able to convey you what is this, and you need to further read your text after this lecture so that you can understand better. For your understanding or comparing your understanding, I have designed a quiz which you can find in the description or in your Google Classroom. Try to solve this quiz. That quiz is not compulsory, again I'm saying, or that quiz marks will not carry anywhere, but just to see whether you understand or not. And if you not understand, you can always ping the questions to me. Okay, good day.